So I think it was a community thing. Everybody bought a couple trees or something.
Yeah, we'll have to look.
And the Pulaski stone, was this right
The
there?
Aunt Pulaski's over there.
Yeah.
Alex.
We just came up the hill here. We're up above Sacred Heart Church. And I guess this is where the first two churches were. Isn't that right, Becky?
Yes. The first two were up here, and then when they burnt down, another one was built, and then one of the older churches was actually moved to a different location, the building, and then the new church was built down below.
Now, do we know what happened to the second church? Did it get reused?
It got reused. I can't remember which family it went to.
But it got moved off of here.
Moved off of here for like a building, a garage.
People didn't, they didn't tear things down and not reuse them.
You had to reuse everything, and the lumber, I'm sure, is probably still good today.
Yeah. So this cemetery, we're going to look at some of the oldest graves here and some interesting ones. And the guys behind us here, I don't know, they're having some kind of a discussion.
They're discussing one of the oldest stones that we have and the people that are on that stone.
Okay. And something that Becky pointed out to me, too, is this pine tree over here. She says it looks like a chicken now.
It's just some of the damage that happens after a while with the wind up here on the hill and the age of the pine tree.
Okay. All right, well, let's go interrupt the guys here in their discussion. So, Paul, you're going to talk about the church a little, or the cemetery.
The cemetery, yep.
Yep. And when was it started?
Well, as soon as there's a church building up here, apparently they started burying people up here. So about 1861, so late 1860s. The oldest stone that we can decipher is the death is 1866.
Wow.
And the cemetery was consecrated in 1873. That date is different on different documents, but that's an agreeable date. There are over 2,000 documented burials here.
Okay.
But more interesting enough, there's around 500 undocumented, unmarked burials, due for various reasons. The early history of this church was marred with fire. The original church that stood up here burned to the ground. Rectories burned to the ground. So we're assuming if there was records, they were either destroyed or if they were even kept at all.
Okay. And we were talking, the second church, we think, you said got moved and...
It got moved right over that hill over there.
Okay. All right.
Right past Mark. You can see Mark Fromm's house there, the backside of that hill. That used to be a Pulaski, a coolest farm.
Oh, okay.
And it got moved just in the backside. It ended up with Ray Gibbons' place. And it got burned down in the last, 20 years or something like that, because I know Glenn Gibbons still lived there, and the neighbor. And he said, when that one caught on fire, they're using it for an old barn. He said, the rats just invaded the area because they were in that old log church that had burned.
And you don't always think about Polish people being really good at making log cabins and log structures, but they certainly were.
They had no choice. They had.
And the notching on the logs depicted the nationality. So you could look at a log home, and by looking at the notches on the corner, see if it was Swiss or German or. So it made a big difference. Like one of them things you don't realize until you start analyzing this old stuff. But none of us are that old.
And a lot
Not
of
yet.
people lived in dugouts. And Frank and Anna Pulaski lived in a dugout.
I know Paul is going to say a few words here about this Pulaski stone here on the back. It's got an interesting date that's earlier than your 1866.
Yeah, is that this one?
Yeah, behind the stone.
That's your stone.
On the way over the Atlantic from Poland, Alex Pulaski, he died at sea in 1859. And they have it documented on the stone, but almost certainly he was buried at sea.
And do we know how old he was? Was it a child?
No, he was an infant.
Oh,
I believe.
I suppose
I
a child.
thought he was 8 years old.
Well, that could be.
No, that couldn't be because
I don't know.
Frank and Anna were married in 1857.
That doesn't mean anything.
I know.
Well, this is Frank and Anna Pulaski's stone.
Yeah.
And Frank and Anna were the great.
They were the original Pulaskis who
Yeah,
came in
but
and
how many
lived in a
greats is that?
dugout. They are my great, Becky. Greats.
Great-greats.
On to Anne Pulaski, the author. This is how
Our
many
cousin
greats?
Ann, yes.
2, 3?
Pardon?
How many greats put this? This is what? 3, 2. two greats
Two greats
for Ann Pulaski.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this one died
great-grandfather,
at
Frank
sea.
and Anna are
And
grandparents.
Ann Pulaski's father was born at sea the same year.
No, not Ann Pulaski's grandfather.
Grandfather, the same year.
And better tell our viewers who Ann Pulaski was if they don't know.
Well, she wrote a number of books. I know she just passed away here within the last, what, year?
Last year, yeah.
Last year, and she has a beautiful stone down over here.
Educated here, educated in Winona at Cathedral High School. My mom was her first cousin and classmate there. And then she studied at Columbia University to receive a master's degree. Was it in library science?
I think it was
Library science. She went to work for UNICEF and gave storytelling workshops around the world and wrote books on storytelling and books about a force. What are they? Do you know the names of them? There's Winding.
several books.
There's several books, yeah.
Yeah. So
I
she
think
was.
there's 5 in the series
Yes.
that she did.
So she was an author.
Yeah, and a daughter of Pine Creek.
Okay.
You know.
Yep. So were there any other things you wanted to point out up here?
There's two priests buried up here.
Those are the big slabs.
Yep, the big structures on top,
Yeah.
big concrete slabs.
Uh-huh.
One was the young father, James Brzezinski. He died relatively young. His family is from here. And the other one is the legendary father, James Gara, who was a priest here at Sacred Heart from 1904 to 1937. So well over 30 years he ran the place.
And there was a Father Gara up in Independence too.
That was his older. That was Father Jacob Gara's older brother,
Oh, his older
Andrew,
brother.
who was also a priest here, and also
But Gara's a big name then.
At that time, must have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's another Father Eichmann is up in the cemetery here too. Dominic. He's down here a little ways. But Pine Creek, like I said, had a lot of people that went to religious practice or service, you know, sisters and priests here, and a few into the Brotherhood. I said,
Yes.
So I said, we have more than one, I said, came here. But many interesting stones. Like Paul said, the upper part on this part, there's not many stones left here. This is probably the original cemetery on this side,
Sure.
over here, because there's nothing here. There's so many empty ones. The whole back slot, there's James Siebert is on the back over there, but then all these other slots back here is only 1 or 2 gravestones. Well,
And
9
you
to 10 they
know
were.
there-
James Siebert is a
that
Civil
there are
War
people
veteran.
buried
Yeah,
here.
Civil War veteran.
9 to 10 they're probably wooden crosses or old limestone pieces that are just slowly
Just
eroded
rotted
away.
Yeah.
Because they were just such a soft material. Or there could have been a flat stone which grew over. This one here that says Hesley on the front, it says Klein on the back.
Oh, well.
I got great-great-grandparents underneath there. So I said, there's a lot of history in this cemetery. A lot of it has probably been lost. But we're trying to preserve what we can.
We're
They're doing
fighting
the
hard
best
to
research
keep
we
what
can
we
on the
can.
records and try to get that compiled here for future generations, because the people we needed to ask are gone for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
They knew who was here, but they're gone now too. So we're just grabbing at straws on some of this stuff here.
So this now the stones that are down here, they must be more recent.
Yeah.
Yes, like Jim was saying, the original cemetery was in this area. Then it extended down to the line of pine trees. Then after that, down below and off to the side behind the school. It gradually is growing, obviously, as the years go by.
Yeah. And there's a story about these pine trees.
Yeah, I don't know if Becky wants to say that.
Well, the story that I had heard that the pines were put in there for the number of children of the Lisinski family. And it's just one of those stories that gets passed on. It's a nice story.
Well, you can tell that these trees are old, and they've certainly taken some hits. It looks.
And there were more of them at one time, so I suspect that the Lisinski part might be partially true, but I think it was like a community thing. Whoever wanted to sponsor a tree or something, they probably put one in, because there were other trees down below. There are a few more up along here, but over the years, the storm damage has really,
I never knew that.
Yeah.
really damaged a lot. I said Grandpa Andrew had 9 children, so that counted for 9 trees, but I don't know about the rest of them. Unless he had something I didn't know about.
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to tell us that was
Did you want to
special
go
about
see
this?
the Amplis?
I think we're-
I think we should go over and look
Okay.
at Aunt Pulaski's stone. I
Yes,
think
we
it's
should.
fairly neat
All
stone.
right, lead on. This is a beautiful spot, though. Boy, you
Beautiful
can-
view.
No, I considered, this as a
You gotta learn something every day, and that's what you learn today. Just because it says
We'll
something,
make a Pollock out of you yet.
No, I won't hurt you.
just because it says something doesn't mean that's what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Well, I recognize some of these other names like Kudrowski
Uh-huh.
and Dolny. Is that?
Dolly, yeah, that's a good Kashubian name.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I thought it sounded.
Oh, here's one. Vnuk.
How did they say it? Winnook?
Vnuk.
Nope.
Vnuk. Vnuk.
Okay.
It's the Polish word for uncle.
For uncle.
Yep.
Joe Anook here donated land from his farm to add on to the Quiok farm because Joe always figured that one family should not have to bear the burden of losing that much land for the cemetery and the school. So Joe took some land from his farm and added it onto the Quiok farm
Okay.
to kind of help offset the hit for one family.
And over here we've got Jurassics, right?
Yep. Yeah, Jacob married that
These
stub.
are the ultimate.
The first that came over. And this one, yeah, Francis. Yeah.
Well, Joseph died at the age of 40. Wow.
Jurassic, okay.
Yeah, Joseph Jurassic died 17 November 1898.
Yeah. This is
40
a
years.
long-lived guy too, 1865 to 1948. That's quite a span.
Yeah, she was the widow. He died in 1898. She 50 years a widow.
Wow. Okay, where's
We're still
Pulaski?
heading downhill
We'll
here.
head downhill, okay.
We get to the tavern, we'll turn around and come back. Maybe after a brief stop.
All right, Peeler. I thought Peeler was a German name. Am I wrong?
It's a Germanized form.
Germanized form, okay. Okay, this is Anne Pulaski. And she was a author and storyteller. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's her signature and everything.
Yeah, that's really
Very well done.
isn't it?
I agree.
And then who, is that a veterans over there, Jim?
Yeah,
That's-
Jim's
This
cleaning up.
is one of the veterans that got killed in World War II here
Oh.
in Pine Creek. Pine Creek has 4 veterans that got
Ann Pulowski's big brother, Lawrence, he was working in a war plant in Seattle when he got drafted. He actually he fought in the Pacific Front. He was wounded on Trempealeau, and he came back and recuperated here, went back and got killed on Okinawa.
Oh,
my.
gee.
So like I said, there's 4 veterans in this cemetery here. I said that were killed in
World War II, yeah.
World
Yeah.
War II.
Andrew Eichmann, Roman Kulis, and John
Moshik.
Mashik. So pronounce the last name Mashik. There's 130 total veterans, at least 130, right, Jim?
Okay.
Yeah,
In this
at least
cemetery.
there's even a couple veterans here like Zenon Pulaski.
Oh,
He fought for the old country when
He
the war
did.
broke
Yeah.
out.
He fought the Bolsheviks in
Yeah.
1921 as a member
So-
of Haller's Blue Army.
So he,
Oh my
he was in
gosh.
the war, but he wasn't serving as a United States veteran. He was serving.
No,
for
he
the
had to
old
be
country.
discharged. He had to, be demobilized or, before he could join the, because they wouldn't just let him go.
And there's a Phoebe Rapinski in here also that was a veteran. Someplace. I haven't been able to find the grave.
And the story is, and you corroborated, that a lot of the Salesians said that they left because the Prussians were grabbing the young men and
That's
putting
right.
them into the Prussian army, and people didn't like that. Especially, they said they put the Polish boys in the front lines.
Jim said all of that, and he was right.
Yeah, yeah. Is that the same story with the Kashubians?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are stories of people sticking their hands into farm machinery in Poland to get out of serving in the Prussian army.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you want to go out and get killed for Kaiser Wilhelm, right?
Yeah. The Prussians were pretty tough, I heard. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Can't
we should
blame
mosey on back. We're
Okay.
pretty much done with our tour here of the cemetery and early settlers here. The only thing left we did do a tour one day. I and Bob Kremeski went up. We looked at the bells in the bell tower up here. And there's 3 bells up in the bell tower, and they're all made by the Buckeye Foundry out of Ohio. The Buckeye Foundry, they all have the same design pattern on them too, I might add. The Buckeye Foundry was founded by a George Collins. I don't know if he's relation to the guy that built the church, Dennis, but anyhow, he says George was there, and he ran it from 1937 to 1837 to 1866. And it was sold out then to Van Dusen and Till. They ran it from 1866 to 1891. Then from 1891 to 94 was a kind of a transition period. Then Van Dusen took over and he ran the business as his own. These bells up here, the biggest bell is dated 1936. 1936 would put it in the Van Dusen period, and he has only his name on that bell. There's two other bells up there, a West bell, and I and Bob Kresge were looking, and Bob spied not on the bell itself, but on the arch. It was patented October 2nd, 1869, which puts it in Van Dusen and Till. And the one next to it has Van Dusen and Till, which has to be the same years, but we could not find a date on it. And we were taking our finger and making it wet and trying to get this white patina off of the bells to see the dates and stuff better. And then Bob says, you know, that white patina isn't really patina. He said there were birds in here before. But so I and Bob didn't finish looking really hard at the last bell, but we suspect that both of the smaller bells were made at the same time and at the same period. So with that, I think we're going to kind of wind up our Pine Creek tour. We got to remember that I said these early settlers, no matter which town they came from, where they settled, religion was extremely important. Mm-hmm. It was a sense of unity. If you had a church, it was a place for guidance, spiritually and emotionally. I mean, they went in and we're having a bad week, but the neighbor would come and help you out or whatever. A family needed help, people came over. The church was a congregation point. So whenever you go past the church, remember, I said it's more than just a building.
Well, I think that's why Sacred Heart came into being involved, because that was important for the Polish settlers where they came from. Uh-huh. They celebrated the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and that's what they wanted to bring over to the new land that they were coming to.
And it was a point of pride, I can't help but believe, for the people of Pine Creek, that you've got the big city Winona across the river, the bright lights, big city, frontier town with railroads and stuff. Well, we had our church in 1862. How's yours going? Winona didn't get its church until, with a priest, until 1873.
So yeah,
Pine Creek made this happen. They made this church happen a lot earlier. They were way ahead of the curve getting their church started because they wanted one so badly.
And I think what I'm looking at that steeple, I'd like to know how they got the bells up there. That must have been quite an undertaking.
Well, I know the Historical Society, there was a square door that you could open, and with the right block and tackle, you could lift them. But I said, these bells aren't that large. You probably could lift them. Brass is heavy, but it's the biggest bell, like a trumba, like they'd say. I forgot to take a ruler up there to measure how big that bell was. But I suspect it was a little over 2 feet, probably on the bottom.
Yeah.
Each bell has a different tone, too. They have a scale. Most of the time they're not called bells, they're called chimes.
Oh,
because some churches have 8-10 bells, maybe more. And then they had a keyboard thing with levers. I mean, when you would pull it, it would bang the hammer and you could play tunes.
Oh God, no, we had a carol on where I used to teach, and every Christmas this guy would come out there and bang out tunes on the carillon, and it was really awesome.
Yeah.
So I said, with these three bells, like I said, the 1861 bell, 9 to 10, that bell is old enough to come from the second church. When this church got moved, it could have got moved into that church. Because that was built in 1875. So why would a 1869 bell appear in an 1875 church?
Well,
unless it was saved and moved.
Right. Yeah. Because there wouldn't be you can't have like a used church bell thing. It'll be here by UPS on Tuesday.
Yeah, you didn't look online. You didn't go to Amazon and look for used church bells, probably.
So it makes sense that they probably moved it when the church got moved. The bell from this church got moved into that church.
Yeah.
And that's the story we're going with.
Yes.
Okay, all right, we'll stick with that. Now, let's look down the hill here before we end this, because to the left of the church there are some other buildings. maybe Kevin can get some pictures of those. So,
In the 1960s, the school was discontinued here. It used to be in the parking lot.
Okay.
The sister's home and the school was discontinued. And the Kwiak family, who still lives next door to us here, donated land next to the church, east of the church here, and a new school was built by the parishioners. And that also gave us a little bit more land up here to where the windmill used to stand, which was used then for more cemetery area. So the sisters' convent was in there, and that church or school ran from 61 through 76. Then the children are combined with here with a Catholic school in Arcadia, and then this became a temporary home here when the rectory got disassembled. Father lived in there for a while, and then we had ministry, and there's a few other activities happening there now. Becky would know a little bit more what they're having in there right now, I said, but
Right now, it's used for CCD.
oh, okay, and that is what? Tell us.
Confraternity of Christian Doctrine.
Okay, so it's like confirmation.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So, but for quite a while there, that was a parochial school.
it was a parochial school.
Okay.
I said we were going to school there when John F. Kennedy got killed.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. Now,
Not that it's old, but
I'm looking over here to my left, and there's some kind of another concrete thing over there at the edge. What's
the windmill
that?
used to stand here. Paul was telling me earlier, he says that the windmill served 13 families here in Pine Creek. All the water came from Pine Creek, came off this windmill. And then the DNR got to be more regulatory, and they started coming and telling these people you have to pay more and more and more for testing and testing, and they were continually passing their tests, but finally the tests were to the point already where everybody just went and drilled their own well.
Okay.
And saved all this hassle because there was lead pipes, and then then you ended up you had to have a machine, something to take the lead out, and then you had to have something to do something else, and you were quicker off just to put in your own well.
Okay.
So everybody now is privately supporting their own wells.
Yeah.
But that windmill served the community for many, many, many years. It had to be here from the probably 1860s.
Now, was it built
70s?
up on a tree?
No,
But
no,
there was
no,
one that
that's
was built
that's
up
a
on a
different
tree.
story. We can
Okay,
go
okay. I'll shut up now, Jim.
We're not going there.
Okay.
We're ready too windy on this one, I'm afraid.
Well, and then there's one more thing down there in your parking lot with all the flowers.
Right. That's the grotto that was built by Father Stanek back, I think it was 75. And he had help from a couple students. One of the students was my brother Steve, and I think it was Kevin Kramer was another one that was helping rebuild that.
That marks the original position of the last rectory that stood here.
Okay.
Built in 1906 and then taken down in 71 or
Beautiful
75.
flowers. You know, I
Something.
always thought a grotto was a cave, but not necessarily. It could just be
No, it could be. It could
It's
be
a
anything you wanna
secluded
call it, I
place,
guess.
but you're right. It was originally a cave.
Yeah.
But
Cave, yeah.
Okay. That's why I was.
One statue in church,
mixed
the
up.
one on the left is the Lady of Lords.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. Well, I think you said there were some interesting pictures in
in the school, I think we should go
Okay.
down there and take a quick look at those, and because you're going to have a 2-day video, I'm afraid.
That's all right. So where are we now, Jim?
Well, right now we're in with the old schoolhouse. I said it's used now for storage and for CCD lessons, and a few other civic events that happen here at the church. Becky knows more about what's going on here, and she's going to tell us why we stopped here.
We stopped here because we have pictures of the old church and different community photos that we had posted at our anniversary. And this space is also used during our fall festival. This year we're having Molly B. It's going to be polka music if you're interested in that, but we'll be using it for serving food out of.
So where with the polka, where do they dance?
We'll be out in a tent out on the lawn.
Ah, okay. Sounds like fun. So I'll run all the information about their Sacred Heart Parish Festival, and that is when?
It's the first Sunday in October.
Okay, that sounds like fun. Okay, we're going to get some pictures of these pictures, and I'll post them. And I want to say thank you to Jim and Becky for coming down here and telling us all about St. Wenceslaus / Most Sacred Heart Church down here in Pine Creek.